everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we've got a little project to do here. Oh look, another Ford tractor. Where do they keep coming from? Let's get into this one. This thing belongs to a family that our family has known since the 1950s. This tractor has been in their family a long time, and kind of, I guess it's gone down through the generations. And now, after sitting for a very long time, it's up here to get kind of brought back to life and refreshed and fixed up a little bit. A couple of things that we know we have to do to it for sure is we want it changed up to 12 volts. It's still got the old 6-volt stuff on it. That's fine, we'll do that. And it needs, I can tell by looking at the insides of the back wheels, like all of them, it needs a set of Sure Seals put in it and a brake job. We're gonna take this thing all apart. We're gonna get rid of all the old leather seals because I'm sure it's full of them. The PTO, the transmission input, you know, stuff like that. We'll get all the fluids changed, make sure everything's shipshape before we give it back to them. First thing we gotta do is figure out what in the world it is. So I'll show you a couple of clues here. It's pretty obvious that it's not an 8N. We know that because it's got a 3-speed transmission. So it's a 9N or a 2N. How are we going to figure that out? Without looking at the serial number, there's a few clues. You're going to look here, and we're going to see it's got a tin dash. You see that? And it's got tubular radius rods, not the I-beam ones. So even though this tin dash came at the I'm pretty sure it came right at the very end of 9N production, the cast iron radius rods carried on into 2N production, and these weren't changed, I think, until 1944. So my best guess, just looking at it, is this is a 1944 till 1947 2N. So all we got to do is scratch the serial number and see what it says. And we did that. And I'm going to put a piece of tape back on it so I don't lose it. Here's what we came up with. 9N186054, which makes it a 1945 2N. So now that we know what we're dealing with here, let's kind of have a look at it and see what we see about it. First of all, it's got some goodies on it, right? Look at this here. It's got a Sherman transmission in it. And this, I could tell by shifting it, this Sherman is in nice shape. The detents are really crisp, you know, really positive. So I'm not sure this could be a step down or a step up. 99% of the time they're a step up. So we're going to go with that it's an overdrive, right? It's got a set of accessory aftermarket running boards on it. It's had an aftermarket light kit put on it using these nice old guide headlights. They're 6-volt and we've only got one good lens, but we'll see what we do. We'll see what we do with that. Other stuff, it just looks to be a kind of a well looked after tractor. Like the steering is pretty decent. I noticed it needs one drag link end on the other side, so we'll put 2 on it because the boot's missing from this one. Everything seems nice. I was goofing around with the shifter handle. It's nice and crisp. It's not all, they get all wore out in here, the shift pin and everything. But this one, nice, positive, really, it's a really nice little tractor. The tires are decent. There's no calcium in them, just air. That's good. Well, it depends. In my opinion, it's good. The front tires are a little bit cracked, but at least they're a nice matching pair and they'll last a good long time. So around the back here, we can see it's got all the original 3-point hitch stuff. The level box is nice and free. It needs a new end. I think you could buy just this end for the top link. We'll look into that. And it's got some kind of a homemade goofy trailer hitch on it, which is just a bad idea on these. But anyway, we'll see what we do about that. So I guess what we got to do right now, before I get too carried away making parts lists and tell them it needs this, it needs that, it needs the other thing, we got to make sure that it runs and that the engine is in decent shape, because they may change their mind about what they want to do if we figure that it needs, if it needs an engine overhaul, right? That can get expensive depending on how bad it is. Sometimes it's just a matter of popping hone it up and put a set of rings and some gaskets in it and it's good again. Sometimes they need to be line bored and stuff is cracked and it can get really, really expensive really fast. So we're going to go ahead now, see if it runs, and go from there. Well, we stuck a battery in it, a 12-volt battery, and I'm pretty sure by the look of these cables that it's been run on 12 volts anyway. It probably wasn't charging and would just be maintained with a battery charger. There's no way this is going to start this engine on 6 volts. And I could tell by the ends on the cables that it's been run with negative ground. So anyway, that's how we got it. What I've done is taken the generator wire and taped it up. So we're not trying to make 6 and 12 fight each other. What I'm going to do now is just give the thing a bump and see if she'll turn over. Well, that's a pretty good sign. Now we got to find out if this baby's got any spark. So I can see that all plug wires are off. So we'll have to figure out the firing order. And the plugs are loose. Oh, so you know what? I kind of think somebody's been pumping oil down this thing. That's probably pretty darn good. Yeah. It's got brand new plugs in it. So we'll pull them out, I guess, because they're loose. Double check the gap and stick them back in. First, we'll get that compressor going and kind of blow around them. We don't want a bunch of junk falling down in the cylinders. Now I'm concerned. What look like new spark plugs on the outside don't look too good on the inside. Especially this one. Yee. So anyway, we'll clean them up, gap them, put them back in. I don't know if they're the right ones or not. They're what was in there. RH18Y. A lot of times you'll see these things with H10s in them. I don't know. We'll find out. All right, the ignition is on. Let's see what we got here. Coil, we got anything? Yes, we have power at the coil. So now we'll wind it over a little bit and see if we got any spark. I'm turning it over and with the hand crank, and you can see it's got no spark. But what's even more alarming is what else it doesn't have. Any compression whatsoever on any cylinder. That is very concerning. Very concerning. Well, I shot a little light oil down each cylinder, and for poops and giggles, we're going to give it a compression test and see what we got. Well, that one's got 25. I've seen worse. So here's what we got in our first go around. And you know what? That's actually not too bad. For an engine that has been sitting for decades and probably all dried out, I thought the plugs were loose because somebody had been squirting oil in it. Maybe somebody did squirt some oil in it like 30 years ago. But she's good and dry. So I'm going to shoot a whole bunch more oil down it. And we'll let it sit overnight and give it another compression test in the morning. If I can get these numbers up into the 60s, it should be enough to get it fired. And then once you get it fired up and warmed up, get the oil circulating, get any of the valves that were open the time that it was sitting will have fuzz and crud and stuff on them. Once it runs, that'll clean up and everything will get lubed and freed up and you'll see the compression numbers come up. That's not bad. It's a little daunting looking at that at first, but it'll come up. That old Ferguson out there that I got going a couple of months ago, it was even worse. The first time I spun it, it was just zeros across the board. And we finally got it going, and it's a great running little tractor. So we'll let this sit and then have another go at it. While I wait for the oil to kind of do its work in the cylinders, we got the distributor out. We're going to see if we can figure out why it's got no spark. And if I have a guess, it'll be the usual points that need a file. So we can see here, points are closed. So we've got continuity, we could see from the ground side of the points to chassis ground, right? But from the hot side of the points, or the switched side of the points, nothing. So we'll get in there with our little points file and see if we can get them cleaned up a bit and see if we can get them working. There we go. We got continuity now. And when we open them, let's see here. Let's see what the gap looks like. Ah, turn you turkey. Come on, focus. There we go. The gap looks pretty good. We're not getting too far into this right now because this is all going to come apart completely later. We're just trying to make sure it runs. So I'll pop this thing back in and we'll see what happens. We can see here it's got an old scripted Ford coil. So that is not one of the modern replacement 12-volt coils for sure. That's an old 6-volt one. So I'm going to put it in. I will not allow the 12 volts to flow through this very, very long because something will get fried. Even though, I mean, somebody's been running 12 volts through it, but I don't want to wreck it. So what we'll do is I'm going to leave everything as is for now. I'm just going to wind it over a bit, make sure it's got spark. Then once I know it's got spark, I'll add a second ballast resistor in series with the one that's already there, and we'll see if that will still let it have spark. Okay, let's see. Up. Up. Okay, we got spark. We got the spark plugs and the secondary ignition cables all back in. So now I'm going to take a chance and not open the carburetor. We're just going to, we got our temporary little fuel tank here. I'm going to put some two-stroke gas in there and we'll wind her over and see what happens. Well, let's see what happens here. Oh, I better clear this stuff off the seat. I'd rather be sitting on there when I start it up. Ah. Okay. People, let's see here. Let's hook up the battery. Okay, put on the ignition. And we'll... How come the choke doesn't work anymore? Well, the choke seems to be stuck. Well, all we can do is try. The choke seems to be kind of seized. Now we got the carburetor off. I guess I'll put it in the vise. We'll pop the lid off, see what we can find out. I need to get the choke freed up because that's seized. This thing must have sat a very, very, very long time. We can whip this thing apart in a jiff. First thing we do, unscrew the power screw. Got a little handy dandy thing to put our bits in. Now, the 4 screws that hold the cover on, hopefully they'll come out. Oh yeah, this thing, ooh, this thing's wrecked. Might need a bigger screwdriver. Oh, got one. I mean, this tractor was stored indoors where I got it from, but I kind of think it was stored outdoors for a long time leading up to that. Well, we got two of them out. Let me get the bigger screwdriver, see if I can get these two front ones. Bigger screwdriver, where are you? Here it is. I can get a better hold of these. Lucky the screws aren't all mashed up. Sometimes the slots in them get all wrecked. And you can't, no, that one's going to get wrecked. Hang on. Hang on, people! Come on, it's just a tiny, oh, got that one. Okay, it's just a tiny little screw. I'm not holding out much hope that the gasket is going to survive this operation, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's what Cheerios boxes are for. Oh, good, got it. Oh, that's in there, good. We'll get that fixed up. No worries. Okay. Let's see what's in this. Yeah, she's stuck together good. That's probably curtains for our gasket. There we go. Got it broke free anyway. Okay, there's just one little spot here where the gasket's still hanging on. We might not be too bad. Let me get the old razor blade scraper. This carburetor will get properly rebuilt. But for now, we just want to hear this thing run. So we can let the family know that we can proceed with fixing it up, right? Oh, I see. The gasket is trying to stay behind. We want the gasket to come. The gasket has to come with the lid, because the float is on the other side of it. Yeah, that's it. Gasket just died. Okay. Oh yeah, this thing's a mess inside. You can see there's some gas in there because I put a little gas in it last night just to see what would happen, and it just came pouring out. So it's definitely a mess in here. Anyway, let me get this dumped out and I'll be back. Now before we do anything, we got to try and free up the choke. And I'm on the outboard end of it, or the linkage end of it, and I'm moving it, and you can see that the choke plate is moving a little bit. So what we could tell from that is that it's this end here where it's stuck. So hopefully we can put a little heat on there and get it unstuck. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. I'll be back in a jiff. Okay, so we got that. I'm just going to keep working it while it cools off and maybe spray a little penetrating oil in it to work into there. And we should be good. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. The choke is free. We'll let that clean off, or pardon me, we'll let that cool off. And we'll have a look at the lid here. Oops. There we go. So we'll get the float out. Shake the float. Doesn't feel like it's full of fuel. That's good. Here's what's left of our poor gasket. The needle and seat is stuck. So I have to try and get the needle out of there. It's stuck open. There we go. Okay, now we can get this out of there, the seat, and we can get that all cleaned up. And come on. I gotta see if I can find a proper screwdriver for these things. Well, maybe this one. Yeah, that's better. There it comes. Okay. It's in there good though. Now we're going to get this gasket surface cleaned up. Oh, I got to get the compressor going. Give me a sec. There's also right here a tiny little jet. If you can get it out, get it out, and you can clean all down in there and clean out the jet. But sometimes they're really stuck in there good. I've had some where I've just had to clean them where they were. Alrighty, found a good used gasket. We're in business now. Now we've got it this much together, and the one thing we can see is the float is very, very low. When it's set properly, you should be able to get a 1/4 inch drill bit just under the tip here. So we're going to adjust that up and see what it looks like. That's better. Close enough for now. We'll set it exact when we actually rebuild the carburetor. For now, we're just kind of making it work, right? Now we're on to the carburetor body, and we got to get the main nozzle out. So I think it's a 3/8 socket. No, maybe it's smaller. 11/32 inches maybe. Let's try that. I kind of thought these were 3/8, but you know. Yeah, it's definitely 3/8. It's just, it's a little tight getting it on there. There we go. It's really tight against the wall of the... Come on. There it comes. We got to get this out because there's tiny little passages in it that get plugged with junk. Well, that's in there good. So it's hard to see, but let me get something I can point with. Oh, here, I can use the power screw. All down the sides of this, there's little air bleeds. There. And there. We need to make sure those air bleeds are clear and that there's nothing down the center of this thing. And now we can blow this whole main body out. We'll get the gasket surface cleaned off, and that'll be ready to go back together. Another thing we'll fix when we're in here doing a proper rebuild, you'll notice that the flapper door on the choke plate is on the wrong side of the choke plate. The idea of that is to act kind of like a choke pull-off does on a downdraft carburetor on your car, so that when you're holding this shut and the engine starts up, you can't release this fast enough. So that little door, the vacuum that the engine makes overcomes the spring and opens it up to let some air get through. That's not going to happen in this one. So we'll have to flip that around when we actually rebuild the carburetor. So now we can lower the thing back together and then flip it over, and we can put the screws in, and we should be ready to try this thing. Well, let's see if it'll go. Oh. Ignition on. It ran pretty rough at first, but she's hitting on all four now. It's running pretty smooth. How's our smoke doing here? Yeah, it's not good. Maybe the rings are all seized. Well, we'll let it warm up a bit and see what happens. All right, now that we at least know that it runs, yes, it smokes and it smokes bad. It could be simple as pulling the pistons out, giving it a hone, and sticking a new set of rings in it, right? It could just be stuck rings. Or it could be something really bad. But we still need to further evaluate the engine. So what we got to do now, the oil pressure gauge is broken. It doesn't do nothing. So we got to get that out of there and get a working gauge swapped into this thing so we can at least see if it's got any oil pressure. Okay, let's see if it'll start back up. Whoop, she almost went. Let's get outside before we die. And we'll see if it's got any oil pressure. So that's not bad. What's it go up to? Something gone wacky with the governor here. Oh, I see. The governor's whiffed in this thing. Does have good oil pressure though, that's good. And you look at that, our oil smoking is done. That's good. So now I know why they had the two arms of the generator wired together. or not the generator, the governor. Yeah, the smoke is clearing right up, eh? We'll reserve judgment on that for now. You can see here by compression test number 2, once we've had it running and got it warm, that that's pretty darn good. This engine is A-OK. Between that and what we saw on this oil pressure gauge, I don't think there's too much wrong with this. The oil burning was diminishing the longer it ran. So I'm hoping the next step, I got to go in the barn and see if I could find a governor that works, or take this one apart and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it. Get the governor working properly so I can get this thing revved up and get it doing some work. I might hook up my scrap metal trailer or something, you know, just get it doing some work. And that may burn out whatever it is crap is that's in it, or clean it out, or help the rings free up. Who knows? Whatever it is, fingers crossed, it's not too bad. That'll wrap this one up for now. In the next video, we're going to get the governor changed and get this thing doing some work and see if we can get the oil burning stopped. If not, well, we got to take the engine apart and re-ring it. What are you going to do? It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like it's hard on these things. Anyway, I'd like to thank you, as always, for tuning into the Claremont Classic Garage. I hope you will come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long for now.